Xperia's greatest hacker, Grey Fox, is here, so let's go ahead and take a look at these genius hackers kits and possible team comps. Grey Fox is a Frostvault Benediction character with a weapon called the Witch's Key. For starters, we can use her weapon as a flying mount by holding your dash button whenever you're in mid-air. Unlike other characters/weapons that have a similar super jump or flight mechanic such as Rubelia's Lost Art, Ling Han's Alabaster Tiger, and Yan Miao's Equilibrium, you won't be losing altitude when you're using this mechanic, so technically we're actually flying and can keep on flying until you run out of stamina. The motion also looks like we're riding on a witch's broom, so they definitely designed this kit with Grey Fox's incoming skin in mind. To top it off, her discharge animation also looks like it was inspired by a certain anime character's ultimate move. Unfortunately, even though the discharge looks majestic and all, it's the type of discharge that we have to jump cancel if we care about rotations or overall damage. The reason for that is because not only does it take a huge amount of time to finish the animation, the thing that we mainly need from it is the power scale stacks, and the maximum amount of stacks, which is 12, will be automatically given upon casting the discharge. There are also other ways to gain power scale stacks, like the normal attack chain under Witch of Time state, but the most efficient way to get them is definitely the discharge. Now, moving on to where and how do we use the stacks. First one is by using her skill to consume all power scale stacks and inflict damage to nearby enemies. Once the skill is casted, we also enter the Witch of Time state, in which some normal attack modes change, plus we get increased frost damage for each power scale stack we consumed. This lasts for 30 seconds. The second way to consume stacks is by using Stagnant Stream, which we can only cast once we're under the Witch of Time state and if we have 12 power scale stacks. Tap and hold normal attack, or hold during normal attack on the ground to consume all power scale stacks and trigger Stagnant Stream, dealing damage to nearby targets. When Benediction Resonance is active, nearby teammates recover all HP lost in the past 3.5 seconds and additional HP equal to a certain percentage of your attack. This also removes debuffs and control effects, including Graying Bite, from you and your nearby teammates. Using Stagnant Stream also grants a new sub-skill called Sub-Zero Beam, which deals damage to nearby enemies, freezing them for 2 seconds. It also recovers HP to nearby teammates equal to a certain percentage of your attack and gives us 12 power scale stacks. Although we get our stacks replenished, Sub-Zero Beam can only be obtained and used one time in each Witch of Time state, and switching weapons during this state will prevent us from getting the sub-skill. So in other words, spamming Sub-Zero Beam within the 30-second time frame won't be possible. On the other hand, what we can do is cast Stagnant Stream back to back due to the power scale stack replenish. So yeah, this is a key mechanic mostly for Benediction players, but even if you're a DPS, you still can't turn a blind eye on that recover all HP lost in the past 3.5 seconds part, because Grey Fox DPS comps with Benediction Resonance is also a viable option. I mean, come on, you're literally turning back time for 3.5 seconds, and you can even cast this twice in a row. Alright, that's pretty much it for Grey Fox weapon skill set. So let's head over to advancements and other stuff. At A1, when Grey Fox's weapon is in the mate slot, gain an additional 1 stack of power scale every 1 second under the Witch of Time state. After using your skill, apply Reverse Tide effect to the hit target for 12 seconds. While Reverse Tide is active, we will recover HP equal to the number of nearby targets affected by Reverse Tide times a certain percentage of our attack every 1 second. This is a weapon kit that's essential mostly to Benediction players because it is possible to acquire 12 power scale stacks within the time frame of a single normal attack chain. With this advancement, we can immediately transition from the normal attack chain into Stagnant Stream, then into Sub-Zero Beam, and then recast Stagnant Stream again. This completes the combo for Grey Fox as a Benediction, plus we also get a little bit of sustain as a bonus. For low investment DPS players, this advancement is not a priority because it doesn't really affect your overall damage, but if you want some sustain, then it's also not bad to have. Next is a tree which gives damage over time every 1 second under the Witch of Time state. When Benediction Resonance is active, using the skill at full power scale stacks will increase our final damage and nearby teammates by 25% for 30 seconds. This particular effect does not stack, so even if you have 2 or more Benediction Grey Foxes on the team, this effect won't increase the team's final damage over the intended percentage. In addition, targets affected by Reverse Tide will have their crit resistance reduced by 3% every 2 seconds. This lasts up to 10 seconds and can stack up to 5 times. In simple terms, that's 15% reduced crit resistance at maximum stacks. This is an advancement that's very beneficial for both DPS and Benediction, so it's really worth considering to get. Moving on to A5, which increases healing by 15%. It's not stated if this effect is limited to Grey Fox's weapon only, and I've tested it myself so I can confirm that it does apply to other weapons as well. What's more, for every 12 power scale stacks consumed, gain 1 stack of Exemption Privilege, which is basically another cheat death mechanic when receiving fatal attacks. However, this one can stack up to 4 times. Yes, 4 times, bro. That's like having 4 A5 Lyras in your pocket, which is crazy. But of course, she's a support type of character, so when Benediction Resonance is active, Exemption Privilege can be granted to nearby teammates. So let's say you're trying to clear a 4-player content, and you have 4 stacks, then pretty much everyone has an extra life. And that's no witch, my comrade. That's a freaking guardian angel. Anyways, DPS wise it doesn't do anything, so unless you have massive skill issue and you need that cheat death times 4, then I'd suggest sticking to A3. But for Benediction players, definitely a must have. Finally, the last advancement A6, which as we all know is where we always get the massive multipliers. So here we go. Upon entering the Witch of Time state, the Frost Elemental damage boost increases to 2.5% for every 1 power scale stack consumed. So instead of 12%, we get 27.5% Frost damage boost at max stacks. Would you look at that? Furthermore, when Reverse Tide ends, deal additional damage equal to 50% of the total damage taken during this period to the target. So basically A6 is more damage boost and then damage reflect. Although there's a limit to how much damage can be reflected, of course. But what's there to contemplate about? Pretty tempting if you're a DPS, but I think not so much for Benediction players. With those out of the way, let's head over to Grey Fox's Matrices. 2-piece set increases Frost attack from 24 to 30% depending on your resonance and advancements. It also increases healing by 20%, so if you pair it with her A5, that's 35% increased healing. Lastly, dealing damage for the first time in combat grants 1000 weapon charge. That's 1 free discharge, but this effect can only trigger once every 15 seconds. The 4-piece set increases final damage by 22 to 34% after using her discharge. On a non-Benediction resonance, increase frost damage by an additional 10%, and if used while Benediction Resonance is active, increase your and your teammates' crit rate by 20% and crit damage by an additional 12%. These effects last for 40 seconds. Needless to say, both 2-piece and 4-piece set effect works in the background. Last and not least, we have Grey Fox Simulacrum Trait. This increases final damage by 18%, and when Benediction Resonance is active, using her skill at full power scale stacks will increase our and our nearby teammates' final damage by another 10% for 30 seconds. Obviously, her trait is designed to benefit Benediction players more, so unless you're a committed support type Benediction, then you won't have to use her trait at all. With that said, all DPS comps will be sticking to Roslyn's trait in the meantime. Before we head over to team comps and rotations, as I've said earlier, Benediction Resonance DPS comps with Grey Fox is a viable option, so you'll be seeing a few of them on this video. However, the dedicated support type of Benediction Grey Fox comps won't be needing a systematic rotation, so as long as you keep in mind how her kit works, then you can just do whatever during actual combat. If you guys want some recommendations on building Benediction comps with Grey Fox, then I'm more than willing to help you guys down on the comment section. But for now, I think the best Benediction comp with Grey Fox would be Fiona and Brevey, equipped with their respective matrices, using Grey Fox's trait. For advancements, I guess all of them being at A1 would be a good start. Right, without further ado, let the rotation showcase begin.
I was ready to surrender my heart to you, only you. There's lights all around me, keep blinding my eyes from you and the truth. Don't tell me, don't tell me, don't tell me why. I know you won't save my life, save my life. don't tell me why. I know, no, no, you won't save my life. Save my life. If you keep on, you're making the waves. You and I will never be safe. Be safe. If the walls come down, will you pick me off the ground? If the walls consumed in my mind, can't seem to break away. Lost in time, thinking about better days. Do you ever get used to the pain? 'Cause I don't know if I can do this again. Now you got me wondering why you let me die alone inside. I died for you, I cried for you, I tried for you. Tell me why you left me bleeding. I died for you, I cried for you, I tried for you. Tell me why you left me bleeding. Tell me why you left me bleeding. Died for you, I cried for you, I tried for you. Tell me why you left me bleeding. Lullaby, so you stay in my head. Bloodshot eyes, can't sleep, I'm rotting in my bed. Even the drugs don't faze me. I don't think you understand. I gave you everything I had when the shit go wrong, and now you got me wondering why you let me die alone inside. I died for you, I cried for you, I tried for you. Tell me why you left me bleeding. I died for you, I cried for you, I tried for you. Tell me why you left me bleeding. I dawned on me that you ain't coming back. I've lost my chance to see us find our way back. And in the end, amidst these trying times, I'll always try to find you. I'll allow you to find the truth that you hold back. So stay with me. You know that I'll follow. I can't breathe. Together we'll fall apart. Stay here right in my arms, and we'll start again. So stay with me. Together we'll fall apart. Together we'll fall apart. Together we'll fall apart. We'll fall apart, I know that we're a mess. And I know that you're trying best. And you're calling me to over dramatically talk to me. And it's so funny, you're all I wanted. And I can't talk, want you out of my life, so say none. I'll wait for days if you ain't one. I'll just say none. So stay with me. You know that I'll follow. I can't breathe. Together we'll fall apart. Stay here right in my arms, and we'll start again. So stay with me. Together we'll fall apart. Together we'll fall apart. Together we'll fall apart. Stay here right in my arms, and we'll start again. So stay